So I read the opening of the Blooming the Lotus, and it was revealing to me because here were clear instructions of how we should practice, including understanding and the commentaries before the practice began. And then in order to make life simple for myself, I thought, well, let's start at the beginning of the book and just go to the end and see what happens. Because I'm the one here, there isn't anyone else doing the facilitation at the moment, so we'll start at the beginning, go to the end, and if people stay, they stay, and if they don't, they don't, and what will be, will be. And over the many months, now 2 years, starting at the beginning of the book, we started with the old version of the book, and then now working with the revised edition. As I found working through these exercises, that there was a real opportunity to actually develop not only your practice, but your real understanding of the Dharma. And that as you go through these exercises, you are prepared to deal with impermanence, anicca, one of the 3 characteristics of existence, usually translated as impermanence, but also can be translated as inconstant. The sense that things change, it's not constant, and around us there was this sense of foreboding, of being separated, of death. And I found that in these exercises there was a way where there was great compassion and wisdom and understanding, and a chance to actually really deepen a sense of connection into the here and now, to be really present with what was going on around us. Each day as I began to practice and facilitated, and I had the great joy of facilitating right throughout the book and sharing that journey with others, I was able to see and really begin to understand that sense of beginningless time, the sense that things, there isn't a sense of a start and an end, but things are transforming and constantly changing. And that when we can accept this, we can accept the difficulties and the challenges that we're facing and that are around us. Around me was a lot of death. I remember one particular week when I lost 3 people whom I knew in less than a week. A good friend, an aunt, and a second cousin. In total, there were 20 people that I had known who had died during that year of the main pandemic. It was a difficult time. But I found that every day, returning to these practices and to the blooming of the lotus, I would find a sense of comfort, of sustenance, of a way of being able to sit with the challenges that were around me. Frequently I'd get emails from other practitioners saying, "Thank you very much for the facilitation this morning. It reminded me of, whatever was happening in their lives." And I think, but it's not me. It's this is Thay's work, and I'm just a conduit, having the joy and the pleasure of being able to share this with others. And that in these processes of change, we can really begin to appreciate them. Change can be difficult sometimes. When we're doing something we don't want to do, we're really pleased that the change is going to happen. But when there's something that we really like, or someone that we really love and that we're with them, the pain of possibility of losing them, it's hard. But I consistently found that the language in the commentaries and in the meditations in this book was a way of really being able to touch a sense of stillness, simplicity, gentleness, and mindfulness within myself and with others. As a child growing up in India, we were surrounded by stories, and one of the great Hindu epics is the Mahabharata. And in that, one of the 5 Pandavas, these 5 brothers, the oldest brother, Yudhishthira, is asked by his father, in fact, Yama, the god of death, what is the greatest wonder in the world? And he replies, people see that death is all around them, but they don't believe that it's going to happen to themselves. This is the greatest wonder. Of course, as a child and when we're young, we can feel as though we're invincible. But then as we get older and our bones creak a bit more and it's more difficult sitting down on the cushion on the floor, or we have sickness to deal with in some shape or form, or our eyes becoming more difficult, finding to be able to read, losing our hearing. But once more coming back to these exercises, I found that in them there was a way, there was a sense of a continuum, a feeling of that this was just a sense of constant change. And that when I could embrace that and allow myself to hold that and to be more open-hearted, I could find a deeper sense of compassion in myself as well as in others, and not feel so overwhelmed by all the deaths around me. After about 10 months of the practice, my friend and Sangha sister Joy said, Sita, you don't have to do this every day. You know, some of us can also help. So I wrote to everybody who was joining at that time, and lots of people stepped forward. And now as we practice, there's a group of facilitators, and it's relatively easy. And some of us come for a short period of time, and some stay for weeks, some come for one day. But there is a great sense of connection and a sense of being able to hold one another. And in the context of living through a pandemic where we have all felt so separated and cut off from one another, and feeling so alone and isolated, this space of being able to come together with these beautiful meditations has never been more important. In the days when I felt like I didn't really want to get up in the morning, but I had an appointment with my fellow Sangha practitioners to get up, to be on the cushion, to be there with everyone. There is something very special about sitting with others. I think we all know that. And there is a real joy of sitting with others in community over an extended period of time. And when you do that over a period of 1 or 2 years, you really get a sense of continuum, a sense of being able to reach out to one another and hold one another no matter what the difficulties there are, without necessarily expressing the challenges that you might be facing. And consistently coming back to the meditations, I would find that there in them, the difficulties that I was facing around me, you know, whether we're going to change the car or whatever, and there is a meditation in there, and there's a line about not being attached to the car and the house. Somehow those lines of that particular day, those meditations would come alive. They would be present. They would be there. In a deeper understanding of impermanence, I have come to see that it is in that teaching of impermanence that there is the ultimate dimension. Because when we can let go and hold on to the impermanence rather than holding on to the permanence, we can be present with whatever is. So despite the grief and the pain and the sorrow and the real challenges of losing people, somehow the words of these meditations would hold me up. They would be a way of working through the pain that was inside me. And as you deeply go through these practices, you find that Thay prepares you. The early meditations, bringing a sense of joy, they're lighter, in some ways they are easier, before moving to ones where we contemplate impermanence and death. There are 3 particular meditations on death in the blooming of the lotus. Contemplating our own death, that of one we love, and that of someone that we have had difficulties with. They are powerful meditations. They invite us to really sit with what there is in life, and that what is in life is also death. 2 sides of the same coin. Invariably, I would find that leading those meditations at that time, there would be other deaths. There were other deaths in the group as well. And people would write to me and say how, a parent had died in the week that we had been working through those meditations. But how comforting it was to hear those words of Thay. The sense that there isn't an ending. It's a continuum. It's an evolving. It's a changing. And that if we can really see that everything in life is changing and is changing all the time, and we don't feel a need to hold on to what is, we can actually find real joy in the present moment. We all know this, and yet we get stuck on ideas of things that we want, things that we want to be different. But when we can just sit with the sense of change, of things that are passing, then in fact we can really step into a sense of joy and happiness. Ajahn Chah, the Thai monk from the forest monastery tradition, once said, if you let go a little, you will have a little peace. And if you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. And if you let go completely, you will have complete peace. This sense of complete peace, I can't say I've completely found it, but a sense of letting go of people around me. I found that I didn't blow over. I was able to take care of the grief and the pain by knowing that the friends that I had lost were still there, in the leaves, in the trees, in the sunshine. It doesn't mean that the pain isn't there. There's been a lot of pain. There still is. knowing that they really are there. They're there in the land, in the landscape around me, I find supportive and helpful. I have been struck by how much letting go I have needed to do. And perhaps the most difficult part of it has been letting go when I've had difficulties with someone. Of those many deaths, one of the deaths that I was most distressed by was actually an ex-colleague whom I did not have a good relationship with. The last time that I had seen her, many years ago, was a difficult meeting. It wasn't a happy experience. I had cursed her in my mind. And here now, she had died. And I felt terrible. I felt overcome with guilt. And I was reminded again of the Buddha's second arrow. Here was I with all this loss. It had behaved badly in my mind, and now I was hurting myself with this second arrow, with the guilt. So I did the Plum Village ceremony for the deceased, myself, just here in this room, for all the people that had lost in that year, to find a way to make peace with myself, and as well as those that had gone. I think that when we can be gentle with ourselves and notice that there is change, there's also change in our approach. There's also change in how we feel about someone. And that we can repair the damage done in this moment now, because it's changing. So over the course of the last 2 years, I've been indebted to and thankful to my Sangha friends and colleagues who've joined me on this journey to explore deeply these meditations and to understand and experience that there is all change, there is constant change, and that perhaps when one touches and embraces the sense of impermanence, that there we can also find deep joy. When we reflect on these truths, it is not depressing, but actually it's a relief. We can feel joy here and now, despite the losses that might have come before us. I don't know what the future holds. None of us do. But the consistency of just returning to this practice, of being there, of noticing how things are in that moment, has been a gentle reminder of what is possible. and to find a sense of peace despite being surrounded by being cut off and loss and death.